I, I, I see Rebecca sitting up straight.
Exactly. Well, it is my great honor to introduce someone who needs no introduction, Rebecca Kaas. She is one of the illustrious veteran reps with Deed Workforce Center, and she covers the Southern region. And she helps veterans in job search with all sorts of services, including which one of the ones she's going to talk about tonight, which is resume writing. So, Rebecca, without further ado, I'm going to let you take it over.
Okay, well, thank you, Alan. So, as Alan said, my name is Rebecca Kaas, and I'm with Deed, Veterans Employment Services. So I'm a Veterans Employment Representative. I help veterans with all kinds of things. One thing that I do specialize in is resume writing. So I have prepared a presentation, and I'm going to bring that up. If I can, there we go. Okay, so everybody can see that, right? Okay. So the only thing is it's covering, I'm trying to get to the, okay.
If you want to do the presentation, it's lower right corner.
It's the lower right corner. Okay. Where do I go?
To the right.
Sorry, I feel so stupid.
Keep going. There you go. Whoop.
Here?
Back. There.
Okay. Right there? Oh, there we go. Okay, so then I can just, okay, so first thing I'm going to do is tell you that I am not an expert. There's no way that I can possibly know everything that there is to know about resume writing. So what I've learned, I've learned through reading constantly. I've read a lot of different articles, and I encourage you to do the same. But I would suggest that when you're reading these articles, always consider the source, and use your critical thinking skills. So this is kind of just an overview of, we're going to start with dispelling some resume myths. I'm not going to have time to read everything, but I encourage you to read what you see on the screen. So one thing is, one myth is that you need to keep your resume to one page. That is not true at all. You can go as many pages as you need to. Standard length, I would say, is about 2-3 pages at most, but there are some employers like federal government where there is no limit. You use as many pages as you need to convey your qualifications for the job. This also, state of Minnesota is the same thing. There's no limit. Street address is not required. And especially in this day and age where, employers are going to be communicating with you online. So they do not need your full street address. The city, state, zip code will suffice. You do not need an objective statement. It's kind of obvious. If you're putting the title of the job that you're looking for on your resume, you don't need that objective statement. Include your entire professional, personal information. You don't need, this is not, your resume is not an autobiography. You want to make sure that you are targeting your resume to the job that you're seeking. There's some other things on here, but yeah, you don't need to include references available upon request. That's kind of obvious. Employers expect that those references will be available, so you don't need to put that on your resume. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. Okay, so one thing you do need to do for every job that you apply for is tailor your resume. So why do you need to tailor your resume for every job that you apply for? Number one, it proves that you have the skills the employer is seeking. Number two is that most large companies, 75% according to Capterra, they use an applicant tracking system. So what's an applicant tracking system? It's software that the HR department uses to analyze the data in your resume. It searches for certain keywords that are taken directly from the job posting. It's really important that you tailor your resume because these companies, most of them use the applicant tracking system. As a result, if you don't make sure that you mirror the words and the phrases in the job posting, they don't match, your resume will likely be rejected. 75% of qualified job applicants are rejected by ATS. So that's important for you to know. Okay. So the benefits of tailoring your resume is number one, grabs the reader's attention, shows you're perfect for the job. It demonstrates genuine interest and motivation, and it emphasizes the employer's needs. It's focusing on their needs. That's really going to grab their attention. Okay. So how do you tailor your resume? In 7 steps. Number one, read the job description. I repeat, read the job description. Look for those keywords and phrases. Notice what's mentioned multiple times or seems to be emphasized. Make sure that the content in your resume mirrors the job description using the same keywords and phrases that are in the job description. And you also want to make sure that you include minimum and preferred qualifications if they're true for you. Be intentional about what you include. Make sure that everything on your resume is relevant. You have to ask yourself, is this relevant to the job that I'm seeking? If it's not, it needs to go. All right, the last step is to list and quantify your best achievements. So how do you do that? Okay, so number one, you need to identify the outcomes for your team and like your previous work experience. Look for those key indicators of success and ask yourself what the bottom line considerations are for the department. Example, new clients acquired, sales revenue, cost reduction, saving, client retention, customer reviews, ratings. So when you're quantifying, you're going to be using numbers, percentages, and or dollar amounts. Those kinds of things really, really stand out on a resume. So you want to make sure that you read your bullet statements and ask yourself, is there any way this can be quantified? And if it is, put it in there. All right, so action words. Start out your bullet phrases with action words. And if it's a previous position that you no longer hold, make sure your action words, all of them are in past tense. I see this all the time on the resumes where they're using present tense and for a job that they no longer hold, then that is not correct. Make sure it's all in past tense. So, okay, additional tailoring tips. Generic resume is about you, while a tailored resume makes it about the employer, and they all want it to be about them, right? Okay, so use those bullet points instead of big paragraphs on your resume. Will make matching qualifications easier for the reader. Also, it's not in here, but make sure you use plenty of white space. That will make your resume easier to read. Describe your accomplishments using data. Numbers, percentages, dollar amounts to prove your effectiveness. Tailoring your resume is also about removing information that detracts from your top skills. Look at every line on your resume through the lens of, is this necessary to prove I'm a great fit for this job or this position? Okay, and mistakes to avoid at all costs. Typos, poor grammar. Okay, you may not think, I'm just speaking in general, people, job seekers may not think that typos are a big deal. They are, trust me, they are. We had a job opening, I'm going to say about maybe 2 years ago for a receptionist at Career Force in Marshall. And the hiring manager told me that she had 30 some resumes to go through, 30 some, that's a lot. She told me that there was one candidate that misspelled the word Marshall. They were immediately eliminated. Okay, so it does matter. Buzzwords like team player, hard worker, responsible for, stuff like that. The buzzwords, these words are overused to the point where they've completely lost their meaning. So you need to make sure that you don't have any of these buzzwords in your resume. Now, buzzwords are different from keywords. Keywords, like I said before, keywords are taken directly from the job posting. So if the job posting says that they're looking for team player or hard worker, you can put those in there because those are the words that the employer used, otherwise leave them out. Functional resume style. Okay, recruiters hate functional resumes, and ATS, applicant tracking systems, don't know what to do with them. So I would not recommend a functional resume. I would recommend either chronological or hybrid, right? Hybrid would be in between chronological and a functional. So hybrid is actually the favored type of resume for most employers. Just make sure, you know, you've got all your skills at the very top of the resume, right where they can see them. You need to grab their attention in the first third of the resume. And if you don't, chances are that the reader, the recruiter, or hiring manager is not even going to bother to read the rest of it. That's why it's really important. Okay, objective statement, like I said before, objective statement just takes up space. That's all it does. So instead of an objective statement, I would recommend using a value statement, you know, maybe no more than 4 or 5 lines. These are all the things that you bring to the table that you want to convey to the employer. You really want to grab their attention. And so the value statement, that's going to do that job for you. Unprofessional email addresses. I think you all know what I'm talking about. I got an email from someone when I was a job seeker many years ago, and it went like lovelylinda@gmail.com. That is completely unprofessional. Don't do it. Okay. And as I said before, the phrase references available upon request, that is completely unnecessary. So it's just taking up space. So just leave that out. Personal hobbies, if they're relevant to the job that you're seeking, yeah, you can put those in there if they're relevant. But if they're not, if they have nothing to do with the job that you're seeking or applying for it, then leave those out. All right. All right. That went by pretty quick. Thanks for listening. Any questions?
So
Thanks, Jason. Yep, go ahead.
I'm wondering, what's the worst egregious thing that you see most often? I know you went through a long list there, but how much of that is actually common?
One thing that jumps out at me is using present tense for a job that you no longer hold. Using big paragraphs, I see that a lot also. Instead of concise bulleted statements, I see a lot of resumes that have these big paragraphs. I would say very, very common is for someone who has a lot of work experience and a lot of credentials, qualifications. They're trying to throw all that in there, you know, everything but the kitchen sink in there. It's not tailored, it's not focused. It's really hard to read. That's what I see most often.
Hey, Rebecca,
Yes.
you made the comment about the unprofessional email addresses.
Yeah.
Well, the other one that people need to watch out for is using out-of-date domains.
Oh, you mean like Yahoo?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
Yahoo, or you know, any of those, because you're aging and dating yourself if you're an older individual.
Yep. Good point. And I
AOL.
agree. Things like Hotmail and Yahoo. Yeah, I totally agree. You should switch over to Gmail, especially I would say anyone who's in the IT field. If you're in the IT field and you're using a domain like Yahoo or Hotmail, that's not going to look very good. So yeah, Tom, that's a good point.
I have a friend who still has a Prodigy email.
Wow.
Does that even still exist? Holy.
I don't know.
It's his email address, so.
It must get delivered.
Yeah. One thing that I didn't mention that I think is important to bring up is we're talking about optimizing your resume, you know, keyword optimizing. There are tools out there that can do that for you. You know, there are tools where you can pay for the service, like JobScan, right? I think they only allow you to scan your resume like once a week. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can only do it once a week, and then they're going to want you to start paying for it. But there is one that was founded by an Army veteran called SkillSyncer, which if you start out, you know, create a basic account, You can get it upgraded, and then you can scan as many times as you like. Does anyone know, does anyone not know about Skill Thinker?
No,
Everybody knows about Skill Thinker?
You want to pull it up real quick for the front page? Since you got the
Yes,
screen share?
I can do that. Give me just a second.
Yeah, I think it's been mentioned a couple of times here, just in the last couple
3
of
to 4 weeks.
or so, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna click. All right. Yep. I know I brought it up before. Let me.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it before then.
Skill Thinker. There we go. Okay, I'm bringing this up. No. Let's see. Okay, so it's a free ATS scanner. And let's see. Okay. All right, here we go. So you guys can see that. So at the home page, you can get started with a free account like I have. So
I'm putting a link to the sample in the chat as well, so you can see the sample.
okay. Give me a second, guys. Oh, okay. So this is the home page. And then I'm going to go ahead and log in. And I'm going to show you, because I've done some scans before. And so I'll show you what this looks like. So the ideal match score for Skill Thinker is like 80%. And I did this one. And so when you excuse me, you basically upload your resume, and then you can copy and paste the job posting directly, into the scan. So with this one, the position was for technical support representative. It will give you a full report. It'll show you how many hard skills you're missing. Well, with this one, the candidate was missing 35 important hard skills, and it tells you exactly the ones that are missing, which makes it really easy for you to go back and plug those in. So it's got hard skills, soft skills, other keywords, and job title match, degree match, word count. So it's saying this resume has 746. It's recommending a range of 500 to 700 words. So that's what it looks like. There's a lot of information in here, a lot. And like I said, you can do as many scans as you like. So anyway, that's what that looks like.
Is there a cost for that?
Is there a what for that? Oh, no, cost? No, it's completely free. No, you create a basic account, and then I'm going to show you. Give me a second here. Go back. Okay, so you have to create your basic account first, and then after you do that, you come up here. And then you click, where did it go? Sorry, I lost it. Where did it go? Military, and you would click on military and students. Let me get out of this. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second because I was logged in. Okay. Yeah, and you would get a reply almost like in the same day. And it only took me like, I don't know, an hour before I got a reply back. So you don't really have to wait too long. Yeah, okay, so back.
There's
All
something
right.
about you got to have a .mil email address to get that.
Yes, you have to send an email.
What if you predate .mil?
What's that?
What if you predate that .mil?
Predate?
Yeah, I got out before.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter. Okay. I couldn't see where I needed to go because I was logged in, but now I'm gonna go back and then I won't, I'm still there. Okay, where's that? Anyway, so you click on military and it's going to give you instructions. Basically, you just need to send an email to the founder and just let him know that you're a military veteran. All right, that's all you need to do. And then he will upgrade you to a premium account. And then that's where you can start doing your scanning. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Mike too. I have a question on quantifying because
Yes.
most of my stuff currently, QA testing and stuff
Mm-hmm.
really have dollars that I'm saving. I don't, they're not telling us, are you saving this or this project and that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure how do I quantify something to dollars or savings or something.
Well,
Or
well,
just
I guess you would,
maybe-
you would have to pretty much guess at it. So if you know what something cost before whatever it was you did, if you know what it cost, if there's any way that you can take an educated guess, you can do that. But if you don't know, you don't know, right? Yeah.
Well, but the other thing you can do, Mike, is you can quantify the number of tests that you perform.
Yep.
Created, developed, whatever the case may be.
Right. Yeah. You have to ask yourself all these questions. How many, how much, how often, over what period of time? There's a lot of different ways to quantify. If you just look at that bulleted statement and ask yourself, is there any way that I can insert a number here or a percentage? It's not always about dollar amounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you could even take it like to a Six Sigma idea that, you've performed X number of tests following changes and reduce the number of defects or failures by
Yep.
a percentage.
Mm-hmm. Quality improvement, continuous improvement. Yep.
I actually have a process that I walk people through, and I won't do it to everyone tonight. But Tom, you hit on something right, and Rebecca, you did as well, is to quantify the number that's not the dollar figure, right? So what can you quantify? Units per day, cost per unit, right? Something that you do know, and then estimate from that basis, right? Because then you can say, well, okay, well, if it was 3 cents per unit, how many units went through that machine?
Right.
Oh, 1,000. Okay, great. Now we've got something to work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much more efficient did you make that machine? About 100 per hour. Oh, okay, great. Well, we could, right? So with some hard questions, like Rebecca was saying, you can get to an estimate, but I'll tell you this, one of the things that I found is that it seems to work best when you have somebody asking you those questions.
Right.
For some reason, the brain just kind of shuts off and it goes, well, I don't know. Oh, time for lunch. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, wait, hold on. So if you do get stuck on that, and this is for anybody that's listening, don't just assume that you don't know. Ask to have one of the coaches here be a dialogue coach or dialogue partner with you to keep asking you these questions until you can get to an estimate. And then the answer is an estimate. Well, you estimated because you were the one that was closest to the problem. So you have the right to estimate it.
Right. I agree. Yep.
Thanks.
Once you get into, I'm going to say that once you get into the habit of looking for ways to quantify statements, it gets easier. The more practice, just like with anything else, the more you do it, the easier it gets. But like Alan said, it's always good to have, a buddy, or somebody, that you can bounce your resume off and have them read it and have them say, hey, what about this? And what about that? And, how many, how often, so on and so forth. Yep.
So what other good questions for Rebecca for resumes or things that apply to you that you're interested in?
Rebecca, I had a question.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendations for how your approach to a resume might differ going into a field that is more oriented on hard skills or a technical capacity versus fields or jobs that are more that emphasize soft skills more? Is there any way that you would approach your resume differently based on that?
I'm going to say probably not. Other people may have different opinions, but the way that I look at it is if you're following the steps that you need to follow, okay, then you're going to be right on track. The main thing I'm going to stress is that most of your information that you're going to need to put in your resume is going to come directly from the job posting, because the employer is telling you what they want, and I'm going to say resume writing is not easy. And anyone who says it's easy is lying. It is not easy, but just get into the habit of looking at job postings and asking yourself, what do they want? What do they want? And then give it to them. Give it to them by using the same keywords and the same phrases that they're using. And when they're talking about number of years experience, use that as well, because like I said, they're telling you what they want.
Yeah.
So I would start with the job posting, that's what I would do every time, every single time. So once you get into the habit of reading job postings and looking for those keywords and making sure that those are in your resume, on your resume, the same words and phrases, you've already got a leg up on your competition if you do it that way.
Rebecca,
Awesome,
you
thank you.
bring up that point about, the skill sinker and stuff. And one of the most valuable things that has is to help. But from my perspective, let me back up a step. When I'm working with somebody is one of the most valuable things is to show them how their resume really doesn't match the posting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I get I work at Optum. I'm more than happy to refer anybody there, but then they send me a resume that's like way over here and doesn't qualify for the posting. It's like they didn't even bother reading the posting or editing their resume. And I get it, right? Because hey, I've been in this field for X years. If you don't know by now that I know how to do Word, then I probably shouldn't be applying, right? I totally understand that, right? But then you carry that too far and, well, I've been a phlebotomist for 17 years, so knowing how to blah, blah, blah. No, hold up. This is a recruiter. They're not a phlebotomist. They don't know. They're never going to know. They don't want to know, right? And so you at some point that breaks down and you have to explain to people, yes, I know how to do this skill, or yes, I know how to do this function, or yes, I have experience doing it, right? And if you don't state it, there's no way somebody can just infer it. And
exactly.
So that's a mistake that I think job seekers make too often is they just assume, well, it says I've got 10 years, 5 years, 7 years, 20 years. Can't you just assume that no. That's not how it works.
Right. And you know what? You have to remember that initially you're not even dealing with a human being. Okay.
Yep.
You need to remember you're dealing with software. You're dealing with a computer, and the computer doesn't know anything about you other than what you're telling it. Right. Garbage in, garbage out. Right. You have to remember that. What? Huh?
I thought there was AI.
I don't know.
It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, even job postings that have, some basic stuff in there, like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. And you're like, well, doesn't everybody know that? Well, not everybody does know that. Yep. And the company or the employer is not going to know that you know that unless you tell them, right? So don't assume anything at all. Use those keywords. Look at the job posting. Making sure that you're using the same keywords and the phrases. That is going to help you beat the bots. Bottom line. Okay. I think I've beat that drum enough today, haven't I?
No.
I would like to add something.
Yes, Jason.
Am I clear? I'm in the middle of Caribou and they're blasting music. Okay. So I was the guy that was throwing a lot of crap at these job postings, and Rebecca was the one that reached out to me, and she said, "Oh man, it has to be with your resume if you are not getting callbacks." So after I updated my resume, I started getting callbacks. So I would be the first to say, don't throw a blanket resume because you're going to be wasting your time and you could possibly get discouraged for everyone out there that's job seeking.
Thank you, Jason. And it's so true. And you know what? When I have copies of my old resumes, mine when I was a job seeker, and I look at those and I'm appalled. I'm seriously appalled. And I'm like, well, no wonder nobody ever called me for an interview. Like, I did not know what I was doing. I only, to be honest with you, I only recently learned everything that I know. And I'll be the first to say that I don't know everything, but I've only learned that very, very recently. So again, read as much as you can. I got my hands on every article I could find and I just devoured it. But again, where you're reading these articles, consider the source, use your critical thinking skills. CPRWs, if an article was written by CPRW, I paid close attention to it because these people are certified professional resume writers. And so, they know what they're talking about. And thank you. Thank you for listening. Any other questions?
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Rebecca.
You're welcome. You're welcome.